You ever really stop and think about that little blue dot on your car's dashboard? You know the one. It's our guide, our co-pilot, the thing that gets us through totally unfamiliar cities without breaking a sweat. But the story of how it even got there? Well, that's an incredible century-long journey full of wild inventions, top-secret military projects, and a flat-out race against time. So let's dive in and see how we got here. I mean, it really does feel like magic, doesn't it? This tiny icon just moves in perfect sync with your car, telling you every turn before you even get there. But behind that simple dot is this massive, invisible system of satellites and incredibly complex calculations. To really get how it all works, we've got to go back, way back, to a time before any of this existed. Before that calm voice telling us to turn left in 200 meters, there was, well, chaos. Just picture it. You're trying to navigate with a giant coffee-stained paper map flapping around, one hand on the wheel, desperately trying to spot a street sign before you miss your exit. That wasn't a movie scene. That was just driving. So our story really kicks off with the rise of the automobile, a time when just driving between cities was a true adventure. The need for a better way to navigate was absolutely huge, and inventors come up with some, well, let's just call them interesting prototypes. Okay, so check this thing out. This was one of the very first attempts at a mechanical in-car navigator, and it was called the Auto. Now, the idea was actually pretty simple, but kind of clever for its time. You had a pre-printed map on a scroll that was supposed to move right along with your car. So here's how it worked. You'd load up a custom paper scroll with your specific route printed on it. Then, a cable connected the device to the car's speedometer, and as you drove, the scroll would unwind, showing you where you should be on the map. And that one little word, should, well, that was the entire problem. And here it is, the fatal flaw. The Auto had no clue where it actually was in the world. It only knew how far your wheels had turned along a path you were supposed to be on, so if you took a single wrong turn, just one, the entire scroll became completely useless. Yeah, a total dead end. To find the real solution, we have to leave the open road behind and step into the, believe it or not, top secret labs of the Cold War. Because the big breakthrough didn't come from car companies. It came from the Pentagon. So back in the 1970s, the US military had this huge problem. How do you guide a missile to a target with pinpoint accuracy? Or track a submarine without it having to surface and give away its position? The answer, cooked up by pioneers like Dr. Ivan Getting and Brad Parkinson, was a whole constellation of satellites. This was the birth of Project Navstar, which we all now know as GPS. Then, in 1983, after the tragic downing of a Korean airliner that accidentally strayed into Soviet airspace, President Reagan announced that once this top-secret system was finished, it would be made available for everyone, for civilian use. But, and this is a huge but, there was a catch. The military was terrified that an enemy could use their own super-precise system against them, so they intentionally degraded the signal for all non-military users. They called it selective availability. And the result of this selective availability? I mean, for a car, it was basically useless. An error of several hundred meters meant your navigation system might tell you you're driving in the middle of a river when you're actually on the bridge right next to it. Not exactly helpful, right? So, with the solution from the sky basically crippled on purpose, a whole new race started down on the ground. Innovators in Silicon Valley and in Japan decided, okay, if we can't get a clear signal from up there, we'll figure out how to navigate from the ground up. You had two major players emerge with two brilliant but totally different ideas. Here in the US, a company called ETAC built a system that used sensors on the wheels to measure distance and a digital compass for direction. And get this, the maps were stored on cassette tapes. Meanwhile, over in Japan, Honda developed a system using a high-tech gyroscope, literally pulled from a fighter jet, to detect every turn. And you have to understand, for the people who actually used these things, it was revolutionary. Seeing a little arrow representing your car move across a digital map for the very first time felt, as one customer put it, like pure magic. This was the future, even if it was, a little bit clunky. And this really gets to the heart of the difference in thinking here. The systems on the ground, like Hondas and ETACs, used what you could call blind navigation. Kind of like walking in a dark room. You only know where you are based on how many steps you've taken and which way you turned. The big problem is tiny errors add up over time. But GPS, it offered the view from God. It wasn't counting steps from the ground. It was just listening to satellites to know its absolute true position on Earth. No guesswork. So you have this fierce competition, the blind systems on the ground versus the handicapped God's view from the sky. And it was all about to come to a very sudden, and I mean dramatic, end. A single decision made in Washington, D.C. was about to change everything, literally overnight.
That day was May 1st, 2000. On that night, by order of President Bill Clinton, a switch was flipped. The U.S. military turned off selective availability for good.
The effect was instantaneous. It was staggering. All across the world, every civilian GPS device suddenly became 10 times more accurate. Just like that. The era of telling you your car was in the river was over. And just like that, the gold rush was on. Your accuracy went from the size of a football field down to the size of a small room. Car companies like Oldsmobile, BMW, and Mercedes scrambled to get this newly precise technology into their dashboards. And services like GM's OnStar basically became household names overnight.
And really, from that moment on, the technology just evolved at this breathtaking pace, becoming the invisible co-pilot that literally millions of us now rely on every single day without even thinking about it.
And, it wasn't just the positioning that got better. Think about the maps themselves. We went from these clunky cassette tapes in the 80s to CDs and DVDs in the 90s, and finally to the constantly updated, real-time, live traffic data we get from the cloud today. The change has been incredible.
So the next time you glance at that little blue dot, just remember its incredible story. It goes all the way from paper scrolls to secret military projects to this brilliant race between engineers on the ground. This technology did way more than just give us directions. It gave us the freedom, the confidence to explore, knowing we can always find our way back.
And maybe that's the biggest lesson in all of this. To solve a problem as old as humanity itself, that deep-seated fear of being lost, we ultimately learned that when people truly want to find their way, they don't just look down at the ground, they look up to the stars.